welcome to what's going on.
Hugo
Fernandez here in the
LGR.
And it's our summer series, spring session 2, first show. And the music playing was obviously Lady Smith Black Mambazo, and the Mint Juleps, who is a cappella group out of East London, started in 1985. Doing the Lionscapes at Night, which I was looking it up, trying to find out the history of it. Stems from a Zulu hunting chant, and it's for our guest today, who is South African student Zilla Tofte, who is the winner of the Jack Kent Cook Foundation scholarship. I don't think I got everything in there. I put everything down here. What did I miss from that? The undergraduate transfer fellowship scholarship. I want to get that right. And she's one of 72 students who won this award nationwide, which is going to afford her ability to finish her bachelor's degree to the tune of about $40,000 a year for up to 3 years. Welcome, Zilla.
Thank you, Hugo. Yeah, that scholarship name is quite a mouthful. Even
I know.
A little bit wrong sometimes.
It's a little bit, yeah. I say it one last time. Jack Kent Cook Foundation Undergraduate Transfer Fellowship Scholarship, or as it's affectionately known, the JKCFUTFS.
That's it. You got it.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to upset Dr. Ko, who may watch this eventually. But anyhow, let's start out by talking a little bit about you. I mentioned you are South African, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you come from, things like that.
Sure. So my name is Zilla Tofte, like Hugo said. I grew up in the very south of South Africa, so the Western Cape, around Cape Town. So it's wine country, very beautiful. And my father was a greenskeeper on the golf course, and my mom had odd jobs growing up. So even though we were in wine country and on golf courses, surrounded by a lot of affluent people, we were never quite on their level financially, I would say, but a very happy family nonetheless. My parents always emphasized that, they both hadn't gone to college, but they always emphasized that whatever we wanted to do, whether we wanted to figure out a way to go to college or not, we just had to be happy eventually. That's what they wanted for us. So
that's good to hear, because usually the story that students share with me, and it was my own experience, is that parents are always trying to say, be an attorney, be a doctor, or be a nurse, something that they think that you'll make money, but a lot of times won't make people necessarily happy.
Yeah, I'm very thankful to both of them for never pressuring us in that way. So we grew up like that, and when I was 16, my father was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed away quite quickly, which left us without a breadwinner in the family. So my mother moved us away from, the Cape Town area towards more the countryside, where it was a little bit easier to live on a smaller salary as a single parent. There we stayed for a while, but South Africa's job opportunities aren't that good. So she had to move abroad. She moved to Korea and then to Thailand to teach English. And then she sent money home to us. Being in that situation, college wasn't really, an option for me or my brother financially. So him and I, after school, actually also followed my mom to Thailand, and we both taught English together with her. We were all together for 3 years teaching there, which was really fun. We made a life for ourselves, just traveling and living together, eating really good food in Southeast Asia, and
I mean, it's interesting because I had mentioned you had your photograph taken with Dr. Ocario, who actually got his start at LaGuardia teaching ESL. And in fact, there's a lot of ESL, there used to be a lot of ESL people spread out all over academic affairs and other kinds of programs. And I call them the ESL gypsies, because many of them, came to ESL as a way to be able to travel and find themselves living in places, making a living, but at the same time seeing the world and having a pretty good time of it.
Very much nomad culture. I feel like the ESL people are. Yeah, yes. Definitely. So I was one of them, and we lived there for 3 years, like I said. And then my mom also got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer while we were in Thailand, very suddenly. We weren't expecting it at all, and she passed away quite suddenly too. In like 2 weeks, both my mom and my grandmother passed away in South Africa. So it was just me and my brother left, and I was at that point in my life where I had to pick, am I going back to Thailand? Am I gonna just continue my life there and teach? Because it wasn't something I was super passionate about. I wanted to make a difference. I'd always been very into environmentalism, and I wanted to start my own something eventually. I just wasn't sure what it was. Or was I gonna take the little bit of inheritance that my grandma had left me and use it, to apply to school? So I did the latter. I had actually, after my dad had passed away when I was 16, I had dropped out of school early, so I didn't finish my high school degree. I got my GED. So I just had my GED. And one of the only schools that accepted me was LaGuardia, because they're very, very open, and they have a very accepting admission process. So it wasn't my GED and my academic history wasn't an obstacle.
So you applied from outside of the States to get into LaGuardia, and so as an international student?
That's right. Yeah. I had enough money. I knew I had enough money to come to school for 2 years at LaGuardia and transfer to CUNY. And with that inheritance that I had got from my grandma and some savings from teachings, I could finish my bachelor's degree in whatever I wanted to do here in the US. And I thought that I specifically wanted to pick the US because it's one of the best educations that I could buy with my money. After studying in the US, the world opens up to you. I had seen it in South Africa and in Thailand. People are very, very, they appreciate the American education. So
it's interesting
because I wanted
because
to try.
Being in the States, a lot of times we hear the opposite, particularly with, math. I've had people who bust our chops about, our education system for mathematics, for example. But so that's kind of interesting to hear that, your experience has been the other way around, that people respond positively to folks with a background education from the United States.
Certainly, I think against the South African education, it was better for me. So it was a better option, and I got into LaGuardia, and I was very happy. So I also got the visa, which I was very happy about, and then I came here, and with the plan to study dietetics, so nutrition. That was actually my plan. And then
why that?
So in addition to being a super passionate environmentalist all my life, I also really love cooking. And with my parents both going through cancer, I had studied a lot about how, our lifestyle can make a difference to these kinds of illnesses. So I was really interested in that, and I had not finished my high school degree, so I had this obstacle in my head that I couldn't. I was like, oh, I'm bad at math, I'm bad at school. Let me just do a kind of an easier route. This seems good. Let me just do that. Not that it's easy, but for me, I just felt like, let me try and do that instead of math or engineering, which is something that in the back of my mind was you really want to do that, but you can't. So I came here with the idea of doing dietetics, but as I went through LaGuardia, and the classes are small, so you get to know your professors, and so I did math classes slowly and stats classes and worked my way into physics. And as I was doing that, those math and physics classes were much more interesting to me than the biology and physiology classes. With the other classes, I felt like there was more eventual creativity. I could program my own, little games or websites instead of just studying biology straight from the books. And I realized that I can do it. And it's something that, even though it's challenging, I really want to study mechanical engineering. So,
and yeah, that's kind of interesting, because you took physics. What was your declared major? I want to understand this.
Oh, so at LaGuardia, they have the liberal arts, math, and science.
Right.
So I was on that track, but I was very much exploring outside of that. So I wasn't just trying to finish my degree. I was taking a bunch of different classes to see if that's really what I wanted to do. And I've been at LaGuardia actually 3.5 years now, so quite long.
Were you coming part-time, or why were you here for such a long time?
So I came I was trying to, I guess, summarize it, but I came as a dietetic student.
Well, you did summarize it, but I guess so you're saying it's because you changed majors?
I changed majors 4 times.
And by the way, the average number it used to be that the average student changed their major 6 times.
Okay.
Over the course of LaGuardia, but interestingly enough, they would always end up back with the first major, whatever it was. Again, I'm kind of like a textbook. I don't want to say textbook, but my experience is much like LaGuardia students. Every time I think about it, and so I did the same thing in my junior college, or in community college, but the reason I chose that last major was because when you did the math, it was the fastest way out. I think I declared I was a communications major, which I think Dr. Riccio doesn't even know that. Station manager is watching us through the LGR Twitch stream now. But I was a communications major. I'd started out as broadcasting, but I went back because it was just the way out. But but I actually kind of went. By the time I got there, I knew I had to finish, so I accelerated it with what they used to call clepping. I forgot what CLEP meant, but it was basically you took a test that said you knew the material that you could learn in a course that you could have taken, 3 credits. I took I don't know how many of those tests, and
a placement test.
Yeah, well, no, because these give you credit.
Oh, okay.
You can literally take a class, and
wow.
If you pass the test, then they would say, okay, fine, you know as much as a student who would have taken that class, so we'll give you that credit. And so it helped me accelerate. But again, it took me, I always say this, it took me 5 years to get a 2-year degree. So anyhow, yeah. And what I think was also interesting is, as much as we try to accelerate the undergraduate experience, the 2-year experience for our students with programs like ASAP and, Pathways, again, originally before Pathways was created, one of the, that people didn't want to really look at is that it took students a long time because of what you're talking about, which is this changing of your majors, right? In this finding your way. And this, because who takes physics as an elective? Is that what you did? Did you actually do that?
Yeah.
That's insane. Who takes, higher math as, I guess, obviously, unless it excites you. How do you explain that? What excites you so much about science and math? Physics and math.
Okay, so to be fair, by the time I started taking my second physics courses and stuff, I already knew that it would apply to my major. So, I wasn't just taking it willy-nilly. But yeah, I don't know. I think to me what was really exciting, apart from obviously learning how the world works around me, which is super interesting. Why do things tilt and why do things take the amount of force to be moved that it needs, is also just I had that thing in my mind growing up that I wasn't good at school. I wasn't good at math. I was like, oh, I couldn't finish high school. And here I was taking these courses with people that I feel are super smart. Like my students, my professors are so smart. And I can do it, you know, I'm like doing well at classes, and I'm like, wow, okay, so I can overcome these challenges that I thought I had in my mind that I couldn't do school.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, I'm Cuban American and I've been back to Cuba, and one of my cousins, who I met while I was there, was tutoring people in math. And I told her that, you know, in the United States, that people think that women don't like math. And she just looked at me and she says, that's stupid. And she's living proof that, you know, that's not the case, certainly in Cuba. And I don't know if that's something you experienced as well. Any kind of negative messages about, well, you know, math is not for women, or women don't like math, or
I have like a friend in one of my. She was in my statics class this semester, and she's also from Cuba, and she's a beast at math. So I think that a beast, like a beast.
Yeah, beast.
yeah, she's really good. So I feel like, yeah, whatever it is, the girls are Wonder Woman.
They produce a lot of doctors. But one thing I was going to say, because Dr. Ko is how I found out about you, and obviously Dr. Ko is involved with the JKC, let's call it. We won't use the rest of it. The Jack Cook Kent. She's always been a member of. Did you also? But she also runs the honors program. Were you taking honors classes as well?
I was taking a few, yeah, at LaGuardia. So actually, I guess the first year that I applied for Jack and Cook was not this year, or not I applied in 2019 for Jack and Cook, and one of the things that is very important to them is taking honors classes. So when I didn't get the scholarship that year, and I knew I would apply again next year, I thought that I would just take a bunch of more honors classes. So I did that, and that's why, basically.
So let me ask you this: being someone that has never taught an honors course at LaGuardia, though I have had some honors students in my classes, and I kind of joke with my students who take my writing intensives, and I tell them it's going to feel like an honors, at least as far as workload. I don't know if workload plays a role, but what have you noticed as a difference? What's different about taking an honors class as opposed to a class that's not designated as an honors level course or an honors course?
I feel like maybe my experience was a little bit different because my classes were all online. So I'm not sure how much, maybe in person it's a little much more different, the experience, but online I feel like the professors were trying to just make it as normal as possible, and you know, be as nice as possible about it. It might be a little bit more intensive on like projects and labs, like the amount that you need to give in. But I don't know. I think my experience is a little bit because it's online.
COVID makes everything difficult. I mean, I'd always thought, and this again an assumption of mine, because again I do not teach an honors level course. Actually, no one's ever come to me and said, "Hey, Hugo, do you want to teach an honors course?" But the difference, and when I'd asked other students, is that because you don't get more credit for taking an honors level course as far as your GPA is concerned. I mean, there are places, maybe it's in high schools or something, where an honors level course, like the A in the honors course, is worth more than an A in a regular course. But from what I could tell is that students who take honors courses really, you know, they want to be there. They want to be in an environment where they're trying hard. And I think that in other courses, sometimes we find folks who are ambivalent about why they are here. Like they're not quite ready to take the bull by the horns, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Yeah.
That they,
yeah, that's definitely the case, I think. Yeah, like the students, as far as like, you know, participation and that type of stuff, you can see that they're very inspired to be there. And I think a lot of them also have a plan to transfer. And I think schools, when you transfer, they look at that type of stuff. Have you taken honors? Are you, how rigorous are you in your schoolwork? And like, can you handle being in a 4-year institution?
Is it, but are you saying transfer before they get the associates with us, or just transfer in general?
After, so from a 2-year to a 4-year school.
Okay.
To finish.
Which we're talking about. I mean, I taught first year seminar. I don't know if you took that class 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, I did.
But, we're talking about transfer in that semester. I'm talking to them about, and I've even said to folks, I mean, students are always like, oh, when should I start thinking about transfer? The day you get here. Because, obviously, like you're saying, that honors level courses look good. And, I mean, everything matters. The sooner you start thinking about it, the more you can take the courses that matter. So 3.5 years. By the way, and since I didn't go through Dr. Koh's email thoroughly, where are you in the graduation process? Are you getting the degree? Did you get it this spring?
So So I got it this spring. The first summer off in 3.5 years. So I'm very happy about that. I'm not taking classes, not working.
You're not in a bridge program?
Not in a bridge program.
You know what a bridge program is?
Is it when you like take some classes in the summer before you transfer to the next school?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, bridge programs, you typically think of them as when kids are transitioning from high school into the 2-year or 4-year experience.
Okay.
And so they take and it takes many forms. It can be something as simple as a 2-week kind of intensive orientation, but it could be courses. But it's basically to get them familiar with the institution they're going to be going to next. In some cases, it could be, because some folks, maybe they, like you were saying, they might need remediation, might need help with either their English or their math to be prepared for the level of the intensity of the workload, or whatever it is, the level of work that's expected of them. So sometimes they're prepped, but there isn't as much of that for transfer, because if you did, usually orientation is something that happens for freshmen, and some of the better institutions are kind of aware of the fact that a transfer student needs to be oriented to the next, the next experience as well. But you're not doing that.
I'm not in any classes, no, formally. But I mean, my next school does have some orientations that I'm going to attend eventually in August. So.
Oh, good. That's good.
Yeah.
Is it
exactly.
Is it specifically for transfer?
For transfer, yes.
Well, we're about to move into I'm going to go to the station break in a couple of minutes, but we've kept people in suspense long enough. Again, unless they read the email, which I did not. Have you chosen your destination for transfer?
Yeah, I have, and I'm staying in New York. I'm going to go to NYU's engineering school in the fall.
Awesome. Why them?
Why that? I applied to so many schools, and I didn't get into as many as I thought I would. But at the end, it was pretty much between NYU and USC. And USC did offer some additional scholarship where NYU did not. They're very much like, no, you're on your own. But I don't feel like I'm done with New York. I came here to live in New York because I had always wanted to. It's been a dream of mine, and I am not ready to give it up.
Especially since it's been, it's been whatever we want to call it, in hibernation for about a year.
Yeah. Exactly. Everything's coming back alive now. I want to be here.
I mean, this is another point when I talk to students about transfer, is it really matters where you go as far as the town, because you are going to be there for whatever amount of time, 2 years, maybe longer if you decide to get a master's. And if you're not comfortable there, it's not going to work.
Definitely. Yeah. And as far as opportunities as well, after, internships and jobs, New York is just such a great place to be. So
I would think, though, California probably has a lot of stuff going on with your love, which is the environment, right?
That's true. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like everything is also always happening in New York. If something's happening, it's in New York. So.
Yes. And what's happening right now is you're watching What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here at LaGuardia Web Radio, WLGR. My guest today is Zilla Tofty, who is the winner of the, and I'm going to read it this time because it's a lot, Jack Kent Cooke Foundation Undergraduate Transfer Fellowship Scholarship. One of 72 recipients who is entitled to up to $40,000 a year for up to 3 years to complete her bachelor's degree. So let's get into what I talked about, the meat and potatoes. Tell us about this process. So you said you applied in 2019, the first time, not getting it. How did you hear about it?
So the transfer services at LaGuardia are very good at promoting the scholarship. When I came in, like I think the first year that I came in, you know, after your first year, like you said, you start thinking about transfer. You have to start thinking about, you know, where you're going to go and writing essays and all that stuff. So I went to transfer services to ask some questions, and they said, yes, you know, your grades look good. Definitely try and apply for the scholarship. I had a lot of community service as well, which the Jack and Cooke Foundation looks at heavily. You know, community, like giving back to your community, honors classes and stuff like that. They want. So they said, you know, apply. And I wanted to apply, but the essays just seemed so much to me, and getting letters from my professors. I got the letters. I started writing the essays, and I just kind of slowed down, and I just didn't think that there was a chance that I could possibly get the scholarship. So I kind of gave up on thinking that I would apply. And then like a week before, my one friend was like, please just apply. It's fine if you don't get it, just apply. My one friend in like biology class. So I wrote the essays. I like sat through the night. I wrote the essays. I got them in. I didn't even have anyone double check them, because I had heard from a previous winner. He was like, oh yeah, I just wrote the essays and I didn't even let anyone check them. And I was like, okay, he must have been a great writer, because I didn't think I should definitely. Or
maybe what I say to my students, maybe he actually read what he wrote.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Most of our students submit things that they've typed them, but they haven't read them.
Yeah, and I definitely didn't give it my all. I can say that, and I sent it in. I got chosen as a semi-finalist, so I got through to the next round, but never something after that. So after that, I was like, okay, I got semi-finalist. Maybe there is a chance that I can get it. And I was also thinking about changing my major. I had applied to a few schools. I had gotten into some, but I thought, okay, I'm gonna just stay at LaGuardia one more year, try for the Jack and Cooke scholarship again, finish more of my prerequisites for engineering, because I was coming off like, you know, biology and anatomy and all that stuff. I didn't have all the math and physics courses. And I'm really glad I decided that, because then COVID hit and I would have had to pay so much to go to a four-year institution online, basically. Which is,
some people feel like they're getting robbed.
Yeah.
Because like they're paying whatever the money is for Columbia, but they're basically
online. Which I understand. It's really hard. Some of my friends are in that, you know. I'm sure some of the students that you know are also in that boat, and it's a lot.
I know students, well, actually working through with ePortfolio, some of the student success mentors who've gone on. I know somebody who's in Columbia, and she was kind of a little perturbed at paying the kind of money she was paying and not really going to the campus, you know, up there in whatever that area, Upper West Side campus. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about this idea of the essays and the letters from faculty, right? This is another thing that I think students always, I try to tell them this, but usually I talk about this in the writing intensive, which is usually like the last class anybody takes, because just the name is such a turn off.
Right? Yeah, sure. That sounds like a lot.
You know, and not to mention, you usually take a heavy load regardless. But, you know, and I talk about this is like you have to build these relationships with professors So, because if you need a recommendation letter, who's going to write it? Who did? Can I ask who were the professors who wrote your letters for you?
Yes, my first year, I actually started a research fellowship with the archives with some of my English professors. So Professor Laura Navarro has written almost all of my letters throughout, and Professor Megan Fox throughout
very good.
LaGuardia. But I hadn't worked. I feel like when you work with a professor outside of class, especially on like something like a research project, is where you can get the best, relationship and therefore the best letter. But that was the only research project I had done. So Professor Howard Motoik, who taught me anatomy for a year, he very generously, said that he would write me something, even though he didn't really know me much outside of class. But when the second year came, I made sure to sign on to more research projects and worked with Professor Malgorzata Marciniak from the math department on an engineering research, and she wrote my letter this year, last year. So,
this is important stuff you're sharing, which, again, if our intention is to get more of these, more LaGuardia students to succeed in this scholarship, I think it's very important for students to hear. Because again, like this research project you talk about, was that extracurricular?
Yes, yeah. It was extracurricular, but LaGuardia did pay me. They are still paying me to do this.
I mean, that's good, but again, it means doing something outside of the class experience.
Definitely, yeah, that makes the world of difference for sure.
What were the projects? May I ask? What kind of research projects?
So the archival project was a Women in Journalism fellowship with the archives. And even though it wasn't related to my major, my English professor, Professor Laura Navarro, said, "Hey, you did well in this class. I think you'd really like this journalism fellowship." And we got to go into the archives, which is something I had never done in my life and probably will never be able to do again. Go through documents that a journalist from the New York Times had written in the 70s. And I kind of did a then and now thing on the work that she had done on the elderly care system of New York City. And we got to present our research at the graduate school, at CUNY Graduate School of Journalism. And we actually got invited, the second year that I signed on to do the project, we got invited to go to Michael Bloomberg's mansion in New York to like speak about the project and raise funds, and got to meet him and see all of his expensive artworks in his house. So it's like these crazy things that happen when you just sign on to a research project. And I got to still, build this relationship with my professor, and I still very much look up to her as a mentor. I feel like I can ask her anything about, life or education. She's there to help me. So yeah, that was my first one. And then my second one with Professor Marciniak is, I'm still working on it. It's a solar energy research project, more engineering focused. So we're basically like designing our own solar energy farm, but it's like agrivoltaic, so it's mixing agriculture and solar energy, growing crops underneath solar panels, and like we're trying to see which layout is most effective for optimal energy and food production on the farm. So yeah, it's all super interesting journalism and engineering, and you can get these research projects by simply just asking your professors, "Hey, are you working on something? Can I come? Can I come help you?"
So this was not something that was announced, that you just kind of said, "Oh, I'll do that."
Yeah, my professor, I had done well in her English class, so she asked me, and I kind of bugged her all the time. I sent her probably 5 emails, like, "Please, if you're still doing this, I want to be a part of it. Like, please don't forget about me." And then the second one, I had actually heard about Professor Marciniak's work the first year that I came to LaGuardia, and she was the stuff she was doing was like solar panels in space. And I was like, wow, I'm not sure if that's what I want to do, but it just sounds so interesting. I want to work with her. So I went to her office during office hours, and I asked her if I can be a part of it. And she said that at that point I hadn't had enough math classes, so I couldn't be a part of it. But when I had enough of the math classes, I went back to her and I asked her again, and she's like, "Okay, You can join now.
That's another, I talk about this all the time. The most underutilized time ever is faculty office hours. We sit there, an hour per class, and very few of our students take advantage of it. So
yeah, that's where it all happens. I feel like that's where you get to know your professors. That's where you know which projects are going on, and you have your ear to the ground. So
yeah, I'm threatening to do a segment as part of this show. I'm calling it Office Hours.
That's a good idea.
I stole the title from my daughter, who wanted to do it when she was doing podcasts in college, and where you basically give a professor an opportunity to talk about their research. And
that's such a great idea. I would love to listen to that too. I feel like everyone would.
There's one audience member.
Yeah.
Right there. So you obviously if you do that, you write the essays, you get the letters of support, you apply everything, and what happened after that? Like, you're notified again that you were a semifinalist or something?
Yeah, so the process, so you write the essays, you send them in, a month or two later, they let you know if you're a semifinalist or not. I think about 250 students get chosen. And then I think, as far as I know, the process differs. Some students are picked as winners without hearing anything from there. They just get notified they're a semifinalist, and then they get notified they're a winner in April or whatever. But for me, they asked me for additional information about 2 or 3 times in between, and they also asked me to do an interview with them. And that's after all that, then I got notified as a winner. And LaGuardia surprised me in a very, very sweet way. Actually, I had heard, so there's like a week where the schools get to notify the winners if they have won or not. And I had heard from some of the other schools, that the winners had been notified and stuff. So I was like, okay, I didn't win. It's not the end of the world. It was fun and everyone deserves it, but kind of sad, And then my professor said that I had to come and give a speech or like a fundraising speech about our research that we were doing on the solar project. And I came in and all of the professors that I knew were there, and they like pretended to be on a phone call. They were like, oh yeah, hi, actually this is not about fundraising. You won the Jack and Cook scholarship. It was very sweet.
So it was a surprise announcement.
Surprise, and they definitely shocked me. Like, I didn't expect it at all. I actually gave a 5-minute speech about my research at the start, thinking of this. I was like, yeah, professor. She was like, actually, Zilla, you can keep it short. Like, don't worry. It's not that. I was like, no, don't worry about it. Like, I'll speak. We'll raise the funds. Don't worry. I have 5 minutes prepared. And I just gave the whole speech. And then they gave me the announcement. And I was like, why did you guys let me speak for 5 minutes? They're like, oh yeah, we were wondering when you were going to finish.
Did they? Why? Yeah. Why did they make you do that? Just to throw you off?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they definitely did throw me off, but it was very sweet. I'm glad they did that because it made it special.
Yeah. Well, it's a big deal for us too, and it's not that. I think we've certainly. I think we've won before. I know we've been trying to get programs to apply, but it's a big deal for us to get somebody to win. Being a well, I guess it's always got to be a community college, though, doesn't it?
For that one, yeah.
Yeah, because of the transfer piece of it.
Yeah.
And but we're a pretty good one, I think.
Yeah, I think so. The best.
Yeah. So it's a big deal for them. When you were talking about developing these relationships with your faculty members, I would also say don't forget them either. I mean, I recently went down to Florida where I was an undergrad and visited with one of my professors who was a major influence on me. He and his wife, who are both having they're having exhibitions simultaneously in Santiago, Chile. One is a major show of shamanic art, if that means anything to you, and the other one is her paintings. And I go see them all the time. We just had lunch. It was a quick thing, just lunch and hello. But
that's nice. That's so nice that you still keep in touch with them.
Yeah, my wife is always saying to me, like, I don't even remember most of my professors, and I could tell her, entire full-blown stories about a lot of them. I've obviously forgotten some people.
Yeah, but there's always a few that stick out, and yeah, I definitely want to stay in touch with them too.
Yeah, and you need a recommendation. You need recommendation letters. I mean, I still need recommendation letters for things, for grants.
Yeah.
So you should build these relationships are something to be built for life.
Yeah.
And we always like to see, because once you guys leave I started going to graduation, and one of the things I figured out, because I had so many students who'd pass the class, but I never knew if they got out. So I would go to the graduation just to see the fact that, oh, you got out. This is not a futile act I'm engaged in.
Yeah.
And but to find out what people do once they leave is also an exciting piece of it. By the way, we're in the last quarter hour, so we've got about 10 minutes before we put on a little more Ladysmith Black Mombasa. So I'm looking at the Twitch stream. I don't know if people want to send questions, but there are none right now. So I told you that this is kind of like we talk about the future in this last little bit. So you're going to NYU and you're going to be majoring in mechanical engineering, right?
Yes, that's right.
And but what do you think you're going to do with this? Are you thinking that advanced yet, that you are thinking about applied use of your degree?
Yeah, I think I definitely am a planner. So, I have a plan, but life always throws stuff at you. So you never know what happens. But having my school funded now makes a world of a difference, because I have a little bit of extra leeway in life. Now I don't have to, work full time. I can definitely take on more classes and finish my degree on time. After that, the Jack and Cook Foundation does have an option for you to apply to graduate school, and they'll fund that as well for 3 years. So that's an option I'm thinking about. But if not, I'll probably start working as a mechanical engineer, try to work here for a few years, and then eventually down the line, I plan on moving back to Thailand, because my brother is still there, and I feel like that's very much my home now. South Africa, a lot of my family isn't here anymore, and as much as I love the country, it's not really my home anymore. My brother's in Thailand, so I'll move back there, and they have a lot of environmental problems that need to be solved. I want to start my own business, and I think that mechanical engineering will give me, the base on which I can build my own product and start my own thing in Thailand with him. He's a software engineer, so that's the plan. But definitely work in New York for a few years after I graduate.
Yeah, basically start a family business.
Yeah, hopefully trying to change the world a little bit. But yeah.
It's funny because I usually have a joke for folks I meet from South Africa, and interestingly, it's tied to Thailand, and it's just it's a film of something. Do you know what performance art is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a famous performance art piece by a guy named Spalding Gray, who was a New York-based performance artist who passed many years ago, and it's called Swimming to Cambodia, where he made a film called The Killing Fields, which I think was shot in Thailand.
Yeah. I've heard about that one.
And during the many escapades, when he's hanging around with the film crew, he meets this South African guy who is pretty crazy, and is always trying to get him to engage in very extreme experiences. And at one point, they go out swimming in the water, and the waves get out of control, and Spalding barely gets back alive. And he's like saying to this guy, like, weren't you afraid you were going to drown? And he says, I can't drown, man. I'm South African. But I would recommend that movie to anybody. It's a brilliant. In fact, I had a friend who did her graduate thesis on it.
Oh, wow.
She was a theater person. And so she ended up, I think she did that. And she kind of sought out Gray and interviewed him. And, but that's Well, I'm sorry to say, after all this investment we're making you, I guess, the environment is the environment. So if you fix the environment in Thailand, you're fixing it everywhere. But I would hate to lose you. Hate the United States to lose, one of its former mechanical engineers.
We'll see what happens. But I think that what you said about, South Africans not being able to drown, I think that applies to so many immigrants coming here. It's like, you don't have a choice. You got to make it work. You can't drown. You got to stay above water.
I got to tell you, I could have stopped this show in the first 15 minutes and we would have had an amazing piece of content hearing your story. And again, it's like, you didn't drown. I mean, the things that you have experienced, any one of those things is a traumatic enough event to, get in the way of people actualizing their lives. So for having so many of those things happen kind of one after the other like that and still pressing on is an amazing story. So again, you did not drown in the, the sea of life. So that's what I was thinking.
Everyone has their own version of that, I feel like, and especially at LaGuardia, that's definitely true. Everyone has this crazy story of how they got there. There's so many non-traditional students, but as long as you keep working and using all of the stuff that LaGuardia has to offer, because there's so many resources, so many people that want to help. There's so many ways to succeed. Not just through a scholarship, but
Well, I just want to. I would congratulate you for recognizing that and taking advantage of a lot of times I feel the same way, that we have all these resources and that people do not take advantage of. And it's so sad because students come here and if they're willing to do the work, they could realize whatever they want to do, wherever they want to go, really, because we put people in all kinds of places. So there's nothing that stops them. But we've got only about maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and I wanted to give you an opportunity. Any last things you want to say, or folks you'd like to thank? Anything like that?
Oh, that's really nice. I think my family all know that everything that I do is, because of them, for them. And I guess I just want to say also thank you to LaGuardia. I came to the US and I didn't know what was going to happen. And I came to a community college. Like, what is that about? Is that I kind of had that stigma attached to it too. Like, is that as good as a normal school? Like, why community college? But I think that I would never have succeeded the way I have without LaGuardia, because they have, the people at the President's Society and the professors that helped me with my research, the students that I worked with, they all have these amazing stories, and everyone, you definitely, once you walk in there, you get that feeling of, wow, everyone just wants to help everyone get the most out of life. So thank you to LaGuardia. It was the best 3.5 years of my life, and I'm super nervous and kind of scared to go to NYU and, go to these bigger classrooms. I've already spoken to some of my professors there, and they're like, oh yeah, we won't be teaching the classes. There's PhD students teaching the classes. So I won't really get to know you, and it all sounds so daunting. So I'm so happy I had the opportunity to be at LaGuardia and get a feel for, smaller classrooms and that community.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sorry to say that's some of the feedback I get from graduates who go on to other, and that's even within CUNY, is that LaGuardia provides a level of support that you're just not going to get somewhere else. But keep your head in there, whatever. And again, come back and talk, because maybe the faculty that you're working with will have insights. And my guess is you'll have probably the first semester will be rough, but if you don't drown, you will make it to shore. You'll make it to your 4-year shore or whatever.
And I have at least I'm excited to also be a part of the Jack and Cook community. That's another level of support that I have now. So thank you to them too, and I'm sure the advisors there and the new friends will help me along the way.
This is important, building a network. I mean, I talk about this as an art professor, but everybody needs to do this, because my guess is that those folks may help you get a research opportunity, maybe a job opportunity. You build these networks. You need to tend them like a garden.
That's so true. Yeah. It's who you know.
They're fruits. So, sorry for all these metaphors today.
I like it.
Bringing it out of me. Well, unless there's anything else, I want to thank you for being on the show. I'm always, whenever I have students on the show, they always amaze me. Obviously, because they've probably done something to get my attention, to be on here. So they're probably amazing people. And again, today, that's the case. Thank you for being on the show. You're an amazing person. And I love to see somebody succeed when we, using all these tools and opportunities and hearing your story.
Thank you so much, Hugo. And thank you for inviting me. This is my very first radio show / interview. So I'm very, thank you for making it so comfortable.
I don't think it'll be your last. I'm sure you're destined for great things, and we want to hear about it. Come back sometime.
Thank you.
And so, folks, I want to say also thank you for everybody who watched or listened. And you've been watching the show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio. My guest today has been Zilla Tofty, who is a mechanical engineering student and a winner of the Jack Kent Cook Foundation Undergraduate Transfer Fellowship Scholarship, one of only 72 community college students around the country who have won $40,000 a year for the next 3 years to finish their undergraduate studies, and hopefully will go on to graduate studies and accomplish all the things that she wants to accomplish. So thanks for listening. And we will take you out as we started the show with Ladysmith Black Mambazo. Mr. Pope, please take us out, and thanks.